21st, 2021. Our speaker is Rebecca O'Neill of SIU Legal Clinics. I want to thank Shane for being our greeter today. And thank all of you for taking time out of your busy day to spend it with your Rotary family. Time for the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our moment of reflection today is brought to us by Shane.
You know, with it being springtime, brought back the visions of baseball as we were growing up, and brought me to, been watching Ken Burns' baseball on PBS and the plight of Jackie Robinson. So I thought I'd reflect with Jackie Robinson today that life is not a spectator sport. If you go to spend your whole life in the grandstand just watching what's going on, in my opinion, you're wasting your life. So a little bit of words of wisdom from Jackie Robinson today. Rick, you're muted.
Now it's time for our song of the day. So I'm going to switch my screen share over to a new take on the four-way test. So let's see. Go full screen on that, and here we go.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build good? Will it better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? When we pay it forward, it will be returned. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build good? Will it better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? When we pay it forward, it will be returned. When we pay it forward, it will be returned.
All right. Thank you, Shane, for that one. A little upbeat change of pace on the four-way test. Ooh. All right, I'm trying to switch things up. All right. Shane, would you please introduce our guest today?
I'd be glad to. I see that we have visiting Rotarian Arbeck with us today. He's the only guest other than Miss Rebecca O'Neill, who will be our guest speaker, who will get introduced later in the presentation. So welcome to all of our guests today.
It's time for some club announcements. First and foremost, the Centennial event is May 1st, 2021 at 4 p.m. We will have our virtual Centennial Celebration. I invite all of you to join me and the rest of the club. Let me go back one there, and we'll get that link into the chat here shortly if it's not already in there. But thank you all that have already registered. We don't have a lot of registrations yet, but I know we do have at least one program sponsor for the day, which is awesome. We're still looking for a few more. But May 1st, 2021, 4 p.m., mark your calendars, and I hope to see you all there. Our 100 Little Things update, we are now up to 72 projects completed. We are still underway with our gun lock donations, our 100 flowers. Sharon Harris Johnson said we have what appears to be about 200 flashlights, right, Sharon? We're getting close. That's awesome. And then our plates, cup, knives, forks, etc., to the Carbondale Warming Center. I don't think Cindy's on the call with us today, but there have been looking for those types of supplies at the warming center for the last couple months now, and as they go through that, especially with COVID, with meals, they've needed those supplies. So our complete list is at rotaryofcarbondale.org/centennial. Please check that out. If you have any additional ideas, things we can do, let us know. I think it's great that we're a little over a year into doing this project to celebrate our centennial, and we have 72 projects completed already. So great job, everyone. Oh, Christine just tells me we have 2 sponsors. Christine, who's our, could you please share with us who our 2 sponsors are?
Yes, we have AES Solar, thank you, OR, and we have First Mid Bank and Trust, so thank you, Mike Neal.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining us in this project. Carbondale Warming Center Lunch Project. We are still continuing to pay Heartland Catering for lunches, even though we're not meeting in person. We're paying them what we're able to based on your donations. So each week, Patty Stokes with the Warming Center is going, or Patty Stokes with Heartland Catering is at the Warming Center on Wednesdays for lunch hour to serve lunch on our behalf. Service project we have coming up, our Adopt a Spot cleanup on May 8th, Saturday at 9 a.m. If you're able to come out and join us, please do. Last year we filled up really 4 to 6 bags full of trash off of that road, right by the super block. So please come join us. The more help we have, the merrier. Our foundation donation challenge, matching club donations up to $100 each month. I want to thank Christine for covering April. We've got Shane, Faith, Jerry, myself, Gil Kronig, and Linda Meredith. We're all the way through October. So if we can get through December, that would make it, I believe, 2 full years that we'll have a $100 match each month. So keep up the good work with that. It's really appreciated. Helps us be able to do the things that we've been doing in the club to better our community. At this time, the board approved 3 members for recommendation to join the Murfreesboro Satellite Club last night at our board meeting. So we're presenting these to you, and as is the standard procedure for our club, we're going to present these names and a little bit of a synopsis for them for each of you. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, they need to be submitted to me within 1 week. We have 7 days, so we have until next week's meeting for anybody to let me know of any comments, questions, concerns, objections before we make the final vote for them to be approved as members of the club. So at this time, I guess I'll pass it over to Brooke Guthman, who's the chair of the Satellite Club, and Shane Hermitz, who I believe sponsored some of these members, and I'll let you guys have the floor to present these members.
Brooke, do you want to go first?
Well, I can. I don't have their information in front of me, but one of them is Valerie Hermans, which is Shane's wife. A second one is Whitney Endries, who is the owner of Idea Creative Marketing downtown Murfreesboro, and which is a marketing firm. And the other one is Jeff Craig, who is a First Mid Bank employee with 2 of our other Rotary members.
Well put. Jeff is the branch manager of the Carbondale branch for the First Mid Bank. My wife is an independent business, passionate about the environment. So when Rotary announced that the environment was coming into focus, that's when my wife came out of hiding and decided she wanted to join Rotary. So that's a little bit about these 3 candidates. If you have questions, Brooke or I can address those for you.
And Jeff Craig is my neighbor across the road. He is such a good guy. I'm so glad he's going to be a Rotarian.
Yeah, that's how we understood it, as he was a Murfreesboro resident.
Fantastic. So thank you guys. If anybody has any questions about them individually, I recommend you contact Shane or Brooke. If you have any concerns about their membership, let me know. But it's a great opportunity for us to continue to grow Rotary's impact in Jackson County. So thank you, Brooke and Brad and Shane for helping us launch this satellite club and enabling us to continue the Rotary mission. A side note here is we've had some questions about Harvette Gray. A couple people thought she would be dropping out. She hasn't been to our meetings, and that's primarily because Wednesdays have been a challenge for her. So she has transitioned into the satellite club, so she'll be a member of that Murfreesboro club and continuing on her service. So I run into this a lot in my professional life, that people go, oh, well, that meeting time doesn't work for me, and we'll lose people out of programs because of that. But because we have another meeting time, we have another opportunity for people to join. We're seeing some growth here in Murfreesboro and in Jackson County. And in Harvette's case, it prevents us from losing a Rotarian, somebody who's going to remain involved because we have this other opportunity. So thank you all for your continued support of the Satellite Club and the mission of Rotary. Here's the one that Sharon Harris Johnson was looking for. And I apologize, I had some running around to do this morning. I did not have a chance to make this slide pop, but the board recommended last night at our board meeting that we will resume in-person meetings on June 2nd. So we're looking at about 6 weeks from now. And the plan at this point is to, when we do resume in person, it will still have a Zoom option. So I've done this with a couple other meetings, and that's the game plan now. We do have approval from the school district to go back in, but we want to give some more time for vaccinations for COVID, as well as give people some time to plan and give us an opportunity to hash out some of the details. The biggest detail that we need to discuss, and we'll open this up right now, is the food service option. So we had some discussion previously about how do we want to handle lunch, and a couple of the options that are out there on the table. Let me pull up my notes here from last night because I had them and then I closed that email already today. But the question becomes, do we have a standard lunch as we've had in the past? Do we have brown bag? Everybody brings their own. Do we have a grab and go lunch that we have our meeting, and then after the meeting, you're able to take your lunch with you if you'd like, or stay and eat with friends, or go outside, go to the park, go wherever, and join each other for lunch. So this time I'll open it up to everybody. I'll stop the share and open up the screen so everybody can see each other and discuss. But does anybody have any thoughts on this would like to share with the group?
It might depend on how many will attend. I think if we have 15 or 20 show up, we might have lunch there. But I think it might depend how many are willing to come to the meeting in person. But once it reaches a certain number, I think we ought to go back to the meals.
I would also vote for the meal. If I have to find time to eat in addition to the time to attend the meeting in person, it would be very hard to fit it in my workday. So being able to eat and participate in the meeting at the same time is beneficial for me.
Well, I've always liked the eating part. I mean, it's the way our culture, the way we are in our culture, we share food and we visit. And, I would try to, as most of us do, sit around at different tables and get to know people. And I enjoyed that very much. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated. I would think most people are. We have finally ventured out one time to go into a restaurant. We knew the owner, and he kind of had our three couples who were all fully vaccinated over in one corner away from everybody. So I'm kind of venturing out a little bit as we go, but I mean, I feel very safe. So, I mean, I do enjoy that component. And one of the reasons, honestly, I've stayed with the Rotary Club instead of going back to breakfast, because I do enjoy that social part very much.
So it sounds like we have some folks that are pretty well on board with that plan. I think you are right, Sharon, that many of us, if not all of us, are vaccinated at this point. I know the vaccinations have been out there, and especially Rotarians have been getting vaccinated because we understand the impact that the polio vaccine has had on the world. I saw a probably 30-minute documentary the other day about a man in Texas who is an attorney who still lives in an iron lung for 90% of his life. He's still, using this machine that is half a century old, and they have to fabricate parts for it because they don't make parts for that stuff anymore. They've had to work through some of that. So I've been encouraging everybody I know to continue to get their vaccines. And as we will discuss those food service options, and we'll probably send out a survey or something along those lines to the club in general. Looking at my Brady Bunch screen right now, we have 20 people on the call. So, maybe 20 people aren't in the room each week for our meetings. However, we have the opportunity to get everybody together, and maybe at first, because we don't have the attendance to pay for meals that way, maybe it's a brown bag option, or maybe it's something else. So we'll explore some of those options. I think by the 1st of July, we'll try to have everything hashed out completely with meal service, but at least plan ahead that at this point, June 2nd will be our first in-person meeting again. But we will, per the request of many Rotarians, we will keep the hybrid option available. And we just need to, Jerry and I are going to work with the school, or other members of the board are going to work with the school district to make sure we have the technology available to share what's happening with those who are remote, and those that are in person can all interact together. So thank you all for the feedback there, and we'll keep moving through the meeting. District news, Satellite Club update. There are 10 members in the Satellite Club, with 3 proposed members and potential for more. We did just talk about those 3 members earlier in the meeting. Service projects in the work, our district grant proposal with the Satellite Club. They've got stuffed backpacks for grade schoolers. Spring cleanup in May or June. They're going to do that coming soon. They'll have a fall project with youth education on topics such as financing, banking, energy efficiency. Murfreesboro Rotary does have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page already up and ready to go. Yes, Shane, I do want to share my screen. I wish you would have just called me out on that. There we go. Satellite Club member updates. There we go. So there's the Rotary of Murfreesboro Provisional is the Facebook page, and search for Murfreesboro in YouTube to find their recordings of their meetings. Additional district news, the new Rotary year starts July 21. Officer training is ongoing right now. So email details will be emailed out from the district. So people who still need to take training, Saturday, April 24th is the next training. That is an extended training for president-elect, secretaries, etc. Rotary International news. April is Maternal and Child Health Month. And May is Youth Service Month. So we are quickly approaching Youth Service Month. I can't believe it's already April 21st. The month seems to have flown by. This week's polio update, as of April 13th, Afghanistan has 4 cases, Pakistan has 1. I'm not going to go through the rest of these, but we have very few cases out there worldwide. And I talked a little bit a minute ago about the iron lung, and that it's really interesting. I highly recommend checking it out on YouTube. I'll try to get that the link for that documentary I watched into the chat window, just because the impact that vaccine has had, and how much the fight that Rotary has, how much contribution to that fight Rotary has made. It's amazing to me. Question was brought up: what role will Rotary International play in the COVID-19 pandemic? Rotary International has given $35 million in grant funding to provide medical equipment such as ventilators, PPE to healthcare workers in response to the coronavirus pandemic. As of today, Rotary International has decided not to purchase COVID-19 vaccines. Rotary is still determining what role it will play in the worldwide response. Stay tuned as this develops. And I think that that probably has to do with the fact that countries are handling their own rollouts. I've seen some places where people are bidding to pay more money for a vaccine in different places. And in this situation, I kind of agree with where Rotary International stands on that, as to not add another player to the national rollouts that are happening across the world. Now it's time for some of your good news. Who's got some good news to share? I will stop my share and let everybody discuss. Don't all speak up at once.
What are you doing? You're not leaving, are you?
Rick, I'll double back. I'll start off on the district training that's going to happen on Saturday. District assembly is usually done in April each year. The president-elect training that was in February kind of laid out what is going to happen through your Rotary year. But at district assembly, they will actually walk the president-elects, the president designees, the secretaries, the treasurers, and specific committee chairs on how to actually interact with DAC-DB, actually how to do things. So if you're curious on how actually things are going to get done during your Rotary year and how to interact with DAC-DB and other people in your roles, this is the training that you're waiting on, and you should get an email from Governor-elect Terry Mathias on where the Zoom rooms, what time they start. But again, it will start Saturday at 10 a.m. and most of it should be over by noon.
Is there another time for that training? I have a conflict Saturday.
As far as I know, they plan on recording the sessions. I don't know if there is a rescheduled date as of yet, but if you have specific questions after that, circle back around to me and I'll make sure that you get what you need.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I have some interesting news and a couple of things about the Centennial. Please do register, and it's free, but you do have to register. We will be having, or we do have painted, a special painting by Project Human X that will be there ready to be auctioned. And we hope people take care of that. And an observation about polio: when I was first diagnosed with MS and had my first MRI, and it was one of the closed ones, you remember, they were really small, and the young lady was showing me a picture of it, and I said, "Oh, it looks like an iron lung." And she looked at me and said, "What's that?" Thought that was a great response. And then, excuse me, my niece, whom I mentioned, I think in January, she argued a case before the Illinois Supreme Court regarding a Mr. Palmer, who the state refused to give his certificate of innocence to for a crime he did not commit but was jailed for. The case came down and she won.
So my good news, I guess it's sort of good news. I had this past weekend, some of you may have seen it on WSIL, I participated in the Last Scout Standing 30-mile adventure race. My team got pulled on Saturday night due to daylight, so we didn't complete the course entirely. The winning team did it in 19 hours and about 18 minutes, which was, I couldn't believe that they were able to do that, because I think we were on the trail for 19 hours on Saturday. But we rappelled 80 feet down a cliff at Giant City State Park. We canoed across Little Grassy Lake. Had to do a whole bunch of other adventures throughout the day. It was a lot of fun. I'm still tired, but we did get up on Sunday morning and we did go back out onto the trail. We got a ride back out and finished the last 3 or 4 tasks of the day, and finished the last 7 miles that we had to do Sunday morning. So after hiking over 20 miles on Saturday, we got back up on Sunday and went another 6.5, almost 7 miles. So felt pretty accomplished and pretty exhausted all day Saturday. And yes, I am having a hard time standing up, getting up out of chairs. So, but it was a blast, and I look forward to potentially doing it again next year. I see, Or, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead, sir.
I don't know if it's brag or wag or something, but my Rotary Club was at the 4-way stop in Heron, and I managed to finagle some money out of Shane for my Rotary Club. He stopped by. He didn't give the $100 I asked, but he still gave substantial. I was telling people that drove through and were coming back through that, you know, it was $100 fine to get through. But anyway, my real thing is you guys should have all received an email about registering for the Rotary International Conference. And I am going to be one of the people who have a booth there for the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. So hopefully you guys will register and show up and see some new virtual booths. This year, it's only $49 to travel the world.
Rick, I think you're muted.
My internet here at the office just dropped out on me twice, so I switched over to hotspotting from my phone. So I apologize. I missed part of whatever the last statement was, but does anybody else have good news for the day? Hearing none, we'll go back to the screen share here. Sergeant at Arms, the floor is yours.
I'm not aware of anyone being in the news this week. However, if you're feeling guilty about anything or have a spot of generosity, there are ongoing blood drives through the American Red Cross this week with several locations nearby, and encourage you to participate if you're able.
Yes, they do have a critical need right now for O positive. So if you're like me and you're a positive guy, please schedule your donation. Mine is scheduled for Thursday, so I'll be over there Thursday. If anybody's around about 1 o'clock and has an appointment, I'll see you there. But hope everybody can continue to do that. So I know I personally am a beneficiary of a blood transfusion, as is my father. Carl Flowers is going to be at the hospital tomorrow. That's great. So the more we can do to help save lives in that manner, the better. Now it's time for our guest speaker. Our guest speaker today is Rebecca O'Neill of SIU Legal Clinic. So I'm going to stop my share and turn it over to Rebecca.
All right. Can you allow me to share my screen, please?
Just made you co-host, so you should be able to share.
Okay, here we go. Can you see my screen?
No.
Try again. Well, I made I may just start talking to you. Is it working now?
Yeah, coming up now.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, what? Okay, well, I'll just present without sharing my screens. Thank you for
Nope, we
having
can see
me.
your screen now.
Oh, you can see it now. Okay. Let me put on the slideshow then. There we go. Okay, so thank you for inviting me today. I was asked just to speak briefly with you to tell you about the work that goes on at the SIU School of Law. We have several legal clinics, and I'm going to briefly share a little bit about each one of them with you, and then maybe give you some little tips at the end, depending on how much time we have after I tell you about the clinics. But I want to tell you that our legal clinics won a very substantial legal education award this past year. It's the highest award that the Illinois State Bar Association gives. And we were honored because of our emphasis on giving students real world experiences to practice law while helping serve the clients in Southern Illinois. So kudos to SIU School of Law for the programs that they allow their students to serve in while learning how to practice law. So our programs are very important. One of the clinics that we have is a domestic violence clinic. I have the telephone number listed there. Attorney Gail Thomas from our program runs that clinic. That clinic primarily serves in Jackson County, but it also serves people in Williamson County and Union County. They assist people who are victims of domestic violence in getting orders of protection. They average about 50 cases a year. Those cases are often very highly contested and involve a tremendous amount of work on the part of Gail Thomas and the students who are learning in the program. Another legal clinic that we have is the Veterans Legal Assistance Program. We've had this clinic, I would say, for about 3 years. The attorney in that program is Martin Parsons. He actually worked, I think, for the Army for many, many years before going to law school and then coming to law school to become an attorney, and now he's practicing there in the legal clinic. But anyway, that clinic represents veterans who live in Southern Illinois who can't afford representation in appeals of their claims for compensation for service-related disabilities, for pensions, for survivor benefits, and education benefits. They also helped assist people in getting upgrades in less than honorable discharges. Sometimes people get charged with less than honorable discharges because of post-traumatic stress syndrome or for sexual assault. So the clinic helps those people fix that problem, basically, so that it's not a dishonorable discharge. To access that program, there's an 800 line to call with the Illinois Armed Forces Association. So I have that number listed there too. A third clinic that we have is the Juvenile Justice Clinic. Attorney Joanna Wells runs that program. She actually is court appointed as the guardian ad litem to represent children, and she only serves in Jackson County. She handles about 100 child abuse neglect cases a year. Those are very hard cases. Our students learn how to do factual investigations, to review court documents and the extensive case histories in those cases. The students are allowed to attend the court hearings. Sometimes they are allowed to present the case too. So those are very, very important to our legal community, and it's excellent training for the students. And then the program that I work in is the Civil Practice Legal Clinic. I have been in that program for almost 30 years. I've practiced law about 33 years. So most of my career has been spent as an attorney in this program. This is actually the flagship of the legal clinic programs that we have. And I say that because we've existed for so long and because of the number of cases that we handle a year and the number of counties we serve. We average about 700 cases a year. And we serve the southern 13 counties. We have an 800 number that people can call to access our services. I have it there on the screen. Right now, we have attorney John Urbis in that program, and me. John is retiring at the end of May, and with the severe budget cuts that the university and law school are experiencing right now, we're losing that position. So I'm going to be the only attorney working in that program, covering 13 counties. So it's going to be a real challenge. We're going to have to revise the types of cases that we take and how many cases that we're able to go to court with, because right now we do represent people in court in 13 counties, and that will be very difficult to do with just one attorney. But anyway, in our program, we do a huge variety of legal services for people. Our services are free. All of the services of the clinics that I've described are free, but we do a lot of estate planning for people, wills, powers of attorneys. We represent a lot of clients who are being sued by their creditors. We work hand in hand with the Department of Aging, Shawnee Alliance for Seniors, and Egyptian Area Agency on Aging. We get a lot of their elder abuse and neglect cases that often end up in civil cases as guardianships. We're involved in a lot of consumer protection cases. We help people when they are being scammed. Just a huge, huge variety of services that we provide for people age 60 and older in Southern Illinois. I'm going to leave you with a few legal tips. Some very important things that all of you should have. If you don't, and if you're caregivers, you need these, the people that you're caring for also need these documents. But the first primary one is the Durable Power of Attorney for Healthcare. That is a document that allows you to name somebody to serve as your decision maker in the event that you lose capacity to make your healthcare choices yourself. The document also allows you to indicate whether or not the people that you've named in the form can talk to the doctor, even if you're still retaining the right to make your own healthcare choices for you. So the document can allow, it can override the HIPAA laws because you're giving consent for that. It allows you to also express your views about life-sustaining treatment. And the way that it works is you can name one agent at a time. You can't name people to serve simultaneously. The document also gives the person you name the right to dispose of your bodily remains at the time of your death. And actually to make an organ donation too. So it covers any type of medical choice decision that can possibly be made. It's very comprehensive. And if there's anything you specifically don't want your agent to have the power to handle, you are certainly allowed to express those limitations on the document. Very, very important document. The second important document is the Durable Power of Attorney for Property. Property means everything, your bank accounts, your clothes, your house, your car, anything that you own is considered property. So if you should happen to lose capacity to make choices about your assets, then the person that you've named in the power of attorney for property would have the power to do that for you. It's very, very important that people get these done before they lose capacity. And it's not that everybody's going to lose capacity, obviously. But if somebody does lose capacity, we don't have a default statute which allows somebody just to step up to the plate and have the right to make financial decisions for somebody. We do have that right with healthcare matters. We have a surrogate healthcare law that allows for a default, which means the statute specifies people who would have the right to make your healthcare decisions for you if you lose the capacity yourself, but that's not true with financial matters. And often we have clients who are spouses who believe that they can sign for their partner, and you can't sign your spouse or partner's signature on documents without having a durable power of attorney for property. One common use of using a durable power of attorney for property when a spouse loses capacity, if that spouse needs to go into long-term care, the law allows the spouse who remains in the community to transfer assets to themselves. One in particular is the home that the spouse in the community can transfer to themselves. Without the power of attorney, the spouse in the community would not be able to do that. So there are lots and lots of reasons why people need durable power of attorney for property as a safety net for whenever somebody might lose capacity, because you never know when it might happen. We also have a mental health preference declaration. It specifically deals with mental health treatment decisions. The nice thing about this form is it's very specific. So it actually identifies many different types of mental health treatment that can be rendered, and allows the person who is signing it to express whether they would give their agent consent to those types of treatment. So they can be very specific about what power they're giving their agent on a large variety of mental health treatment decisions. At one time, there was a dispute over whether agents on a healthcare power of attorney could make mental health care decisions. And so that's really how the Mental Health Preference Declaration Act came about. But now the law has been revised, so agents on a durable power of attorney for healthcare can also make mental health care decisions too. If people don't go to the effort of signing power of attorneys for healthcare and for property, and they lose capacity, we often end up having to do guardianships over the people that have lost capacity. Guardianships are a court process. Our services are free, but the court charges a filing fee. There's always a guardian ad litem, which is another attorney who's appointed to serve a role in the guardianship process. That role is to protect the alleged disabled person's interest and to report back to the court an opinion on whether the guardianship is warranted. That guardian ad litem serves that role primarily because many of the people who have lost capacity are physically unable to go to court. So the guardian ad litem serves as the eyes and ears for the court to help come to the correct decision on whether a guardianship is warranted and whether the person who is petitioning to be the guardian is the appropriate person to do that. It's also a process where the closest family members are, they have to be notified of the proceeding, and that's also to help protect the interest of the person who's lost capacity. So it's clear that nobody's trying to take advantage of the person. Here's some other resources that are very important for you to know about. Egyptian Area Agency on Aging is the agency that's the long arm of the Illinois Department of Agency. They're basically, they distribute the grants to the social service providers throughout Southern Illinois, and they administer those grants, plus they offer some of their own services. Our legal clinic receives a grant that is monitored by Egyptian Area Agency on Aging. But they have that website that I've posted there. I would suggest that you write that down because they have an excellent website that they keep up to date with very important information about many, many topics related to elderly people. So they have a whole section on Medicare, Medicaid, community health programs. I mean, just all kinds of very interesting information. And they give you the direct links to the relevant like administrative codes and statutes and other resources. So it's a very resourceful tool to use. The Shawnee Alliance for Seniors number that I have there, that's a very good number to have in your pocket too. Shawnee Alliance for Seniors is the primary overseer for many, many of the services that elderly receive in Southern Illinois. They have an elder abuse program. They oversee community care programs. They have money management programs. They have an ombudsman who goes to nursing homes to take a look at complaints that they've received over residents in nursing homes and things that have gone awry at the nursing home. So they are a protective agency for elderly people in Southern Illinois. They have very dedicated staff there. Most of their staff has been there and worked there for many, many years. Highly professional. We are very lucky in Southern Illinois with our network for aged services. Highly skilled, trained people who are very passionate about what they do. So we're very, very lucky. I wanted to give you two other tips. And then if you have a few questions, I know we only have about 5 minutes left. I'll take some questions, but 2 tips I wanted to leave you with were a lot of people ask a lot of questions about planning for long-term care and payment for long-term care. One tip to remember is you really need to plan, the person who's going into long-term care, you need to plan for payment of their funeral before they go into long-term care, because if they go into long-term care with assets, those assets will have to be used to pay for their long-term care. And once they enter long-term care, those assets cannot be used to pay for their funeral. So the timing of paying for the funeral is very important. A lot of people will ask me, well, should I have a life insurance policy or should I do a funeral trust with the funeral home? You can actually sock a lot more money away by doing a funeral trust with a funeral home, because the funeral home director's lobby has been very, very powerful in the state of Illinois. And they have set it up where they don't count certain things that you purchase towards the value of the funeral trust. So you're allowed to purchase things and have more money put away into the type of funeral trust than you are to have in a life insurance policy. So that would be my recommendation, that you prepay your funeral prior to having the person go into long-term care. And then we still have a 5-year look back period on transfers before people can apply for Medicaid. So what that means is if somebody needs long-term care and they have assets, their assets have to be used to pay for their care. There are exceptions for people who have spouses in the community. We have laws called the Spousal Impoverishment Protection Statutes. So spouses in the community are allowed to keep a lot of resources and a lot of income. But if it's a single person going into the nursing home for long-term care, there's a 5-year look back period on any transfers that they've made prior to going into the nursing home. And what that means is any transfers will be presumed to have been made to avoid having that money be used to pay for long-term care. So it creates a penalty period for the person who goes into the long-term care facility, and Medicaid refuses to pay for whatever number of months that transfer would have covered had they not made the transfer. So I know that's all kind of random piecemeal information, but I was thinking that those were probably the most important things that I should convey to you in this short time period that we have together. So if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them in the next few minutes.
I have a question, Rebecca. What happens if you put more money in a funeral trust than the funeral cost?
Typically, the funeral director will give the money back to the family, and you can indicate that when you set up the plan. Other questions? So our intake line for the Civil Practice Legal Clinic actually just closed because we're at the end of the semester. Our students start their finals next week. We are always a week ahead of the regular school in terms of final exams. Our legal clinic, the Civil Practice Legal Clinic for Elderly, won't accept new cases again until August. And it's simply because we have so many open cases right now. So what we do in the summer is we try to finish up all of the cases that we've accumulated throughout the spring semester and prior semesters, and try to close out as many of those as we can before we start back in the fall. We do take emergency cases though, so invariably we do get new clients in the summer too, but just know that if you're interested in our free legal services, new clients will be accepted once school starts in August, and there's no income parameter for our services. You just have to be age 60 or older. Okay, well, that's all I have.
Thank you for joining us today, Rebecca. It was very insightful. As my parents are aging, and as I'm starting to plan out my own family, I'm always intrigued when I learn about things like power of attorney, that my spouse doesn't necessarily have all the power that people automatically think they do. So I appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Sure. Well, you're welcome. Glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so next week, we have Sandra Langley of the John A. Logan Literacy Program. She'll be joining us. And now it is time for the four-way test. So I'm going to lead us in the four-way test today. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it
the truth?
Second, is it fair to
Fair to all concerned.
Third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth, will
it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you all for joining us at our Rotary Club meeting today, and we hope to see you all again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second, right where this sign is on Giant City Road.
Bye.